Welcome to the Tile Happy Hour, and it is a rainy and windy Wednesday. No, it is not. I'm confused. It is a rainy and windy Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock. I have not been drinking yet, I promise, but I cannot promise for my good friend John that's here. The weather's got me all in a mess, John. I can't even talk tonight.
What's up, Craig? Yeah, you know what? Here in New York, it is crazy raining too. So we're in a similar situation, I think.
Yeah, I tried to call it Wednesday, but it's not Wednesday. It's windy. It's windy. We're under a tornado warning.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the tri-state area here. We skirted a storm literally because the other day, because it was a lot of storms in a little bit north of us, and it rained for like a day and a half, and we would have been under like a foot of snow, but we dodged it. So I'm happy.
Nice. Don't tell my wife. She is praying for snow. They did, for some reason, let them out of school today because of a wind warning, which I've never heard of. But
really?
Regardless, it's Tuesday night, and Tuesday night is tile night. That's when we're here to talk about anything, everything in the tile industry. We hope everybody's having a good night. Those out there watching on our many platforms, and I think we finally, both of us, got Instagram Live up and going, so hopefully we can see some friends over there and leave some comments. And YouTube is up and running. We've got X, formerly Twitter, up and running, and running on John's Instagram, which always has some good traffic. So welcome to the Tile Happy Hour. If you have anything you want to talk about tonight, dealing with the tile stone industry and how John looks or how I look, jump in. This is your show, not our show, but it's your show. We want to talk about the things that you want.
That's true. Well, hey, this is John Tedisco. This is the Tile Happy Hour here at my cohort and co-host, Craig Cahoon. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and we have a lot of exciting things happening on tonight's show and future shows. So definitely tune in with us. We have some on-the-road shows. We're going to be out there in the stratosphere, broadcasting from different places and from our studios, my home studio here on Long Island, New York. And Craig, where are you at?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, the heart of the South, and one of my favorite places to be. It's just a beautiful, beautiful town, city, I guess. I don't know what the dividing line between town. It's not probably near as large as where you are, but Raleigh is the hub of excitement. And in my world and in my studio here, it is the tile hub of the wheel. Here's what we do.
Well, you know what? It's really cool. Now we're cranking along. Believe it or not, it's January 9th. We're moving. The year has started, and I know we typically start off in a pace that, January is moving along, but next thing you know, it's January, it's February, it's March. So we're happy to be here. We want to know where you're watching from. If you're watching from Instagram or X or YouTube, wherever you're at, or LinkedIn, send us a message, say hello, ask a question. If you're watching this after the show has broadcast live, we'll still respond to your question. So if you have a comment or a question, be it technical, be it just admiring Craig's glasses, whatever it is, just send us a note, and we would love to join you. So Craig, today is Technical Tuesday or Tech Tuesday, or I like to call it Taco Tuesday, but whatever.
Well, we just had tacos at the Cahoon house. So normally Tuesday is Taco Tuesday for us, but it was also, we talked about it last week, and, we kind of just do a technical show. I talk technical 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'd love to get everybody's opinion of having a monthly technical show. What do you guys think about that? I know that we got a lot of different people, from designers, architects, other vendors, distributors out there that watch us. Is that something you get behind and support and be a part of? And John, I can't remember if I sent this to you or not, but we've got some fans. I think if I'm pronouncing it right, the Lassos company, they I'm not sure who's doing the comments, but that's the company. They jumped in the comments in our Backsplash episode, and they said, hey, they'd really love to be a part of the show, and got a few people they'd like to get on and have like a round table. And I told them, hey, send me an email. Let's get together and plan it. And I'll throw that out there to you, John, if I didn't ask you, because you have to approve it too. But everybody else, do you think that'd be a good time kind of talking through, I don't know, maybe any situation, all situations, or tearing up something with a group of contractors or technical people? How do you feel about that, John?
I think that's cool. I mean, anything tile, I'm up for. And actually, I just got a message. I don't know if it came through on you, but somebody 3x4 ARC wanted to know about sealing. What's the difference between sealing and enhancing sealing? I guess they mean, what's the difference between a regular sealer and a enhancing sealer? So I guess that's a good tech question, right?
Yeah, that's a great tech question, and it kind of fits, because right now I actually did a sealing. If you could look right there, there's sealing samples on my work desk behind me, and I'm a little high because some sealers have a smell to them. If you're familiar with the old-fashioned solvent-based sealers, you can have problems driving home after that. I only used a little bit, but
that's a good start, right? When you're talking about sealers, there are two basic categories, right? If you're in the industry and you're talking tile, you're like, oh, is that ceramic or is that porcelain? If you're talking sealers, what do you say? Is that this type of sealer or that type of sealer? Thinking solvent based.
I don't know. You talk about it that much, but I think the question, yeah. I think it comes down to when you're a contractor and you're choosing your sealer, or you're a homeowner just trying to educate yourself. The biggest thing between the types of sealers, and this is really nerdy, but there are two main types of sealers. It's the solvent-based sealer and the water-based sealer. And all that means is a delivery system for the polymer that actually does the work. So the polymer, just think of it as the cowboy that rides in, and he does the work, but the horse is either solvent or water. You like that analogy, John?
I'm blown away by that. That's yeah. I'm saying to myself, leave it to Craig to come up with that.
What happens is the solvent-based sealers,
either riding in on a horse or riding in on a donkey, one or the other.
Yeah, it's riding in on a horse. But normally those solvent-based sealers are a chemical that smells. You think of acetone or xylene are the two most popular. But the good thing about that is they penetrate. They're small particles, so they penetrate quickly, and they normally dry very quickly. The downside is they have a smell to them. They don't meet the VOC. Most of the time, they don't meet any VOC requirements. I think I'm going to say this out loud, and people just ride me in the comments if you don't agree with me. But years ago, solvent-based sealers worked better than water-based sealers. But now technology has increased to the point where water-based sealers are just as good. They do take a little bit longer to evaporate, because water evaporates slower than acetone or xylene. But the sealing properties, the polymers that are riding on that water horse, they'll protect your stone just as good. So that answers kind of the first question, is what type of sealer. And actually, I just wrote this in my training document that we're doing this month, is if you don't know the difference between the two, choose a high quality water-based sealer is my suggestion.
So when the better sealers came out, they were solvent based, and the negative is the negatives are the smell. And the potential, the off gassing, it's arguable, but is it healthy or not healthy? So those are the two. So the smell, it's like, okay, if you can deal with the smell, then what big deal? But then sometimes if you're smelling something, that means it's a chemical. And then there's a discussion about, is it something going into your lungs?
Is it harmful?
So so the industry has been trying to find a way to deliver the sealer using, or let me rephrase that, deliver the sealer not using oil, and figuring out another way to deliver it. But there has to be a downside. I mean, what has been the What's been the hurdle for the industry to
Well,
do
I
that?
think the hurdle was originally, and I'm not a chemist, I'm a contractor. Originally, they couldn't get the polymers. The water is, for a penetrating sealer, water is a larger particle than the solvents. So therefore, it didn't penetrate as deep. But now I think they've solved that problem by doing some different things chemistry wise. And I would love for a chemist to come on and help us out. But I think what that happens is the water delivery system. I know Bulletproof, I think, has some fluoride in it, and they've got some things that will have improved that. So it does penetrate as deep as the solvent, and it does deliver those polymers. And once it evaporates, it gives it that solid. And it's and John, you know this because you've sold it for so many years. Once you apply a sealer, your floor is stain proof, right?
Did you say proof?
I did say proof.
Yeah. Well, the legal side of me is saying nothing is 100%, nothing is proof, stain resistant. So, but let me ask you a question, Craig. So, and this, I'm learning something here. So, you're saying that the sealer component of a sealer, the polymers or whatever it is, that is basically the same in a water base or a solvent base. It's just how it's getting there is the difference.
For the layman, yes. And I'm going to say that it's chemically the same, but I'm going to say the results are the same now. Because I know to bond it to a solvent and to bond it to water. Gosh, this is really deep and nerdy. There's probably some difference chemical wise, but what are we concerned with? We're concerned with results. And so the results are the same. But back in the day, I remember I wouldn't choose a water-based sealer because it didn't last very long and all that other stuff. And
so here's a question. Wait a minute. Is the solvent adding any stain resistance to the factor, or is it strictly a delivery system? It is
strictly the horse. It is strictly the delivery system. See, I didn't know that either until I asked the question to I'll say it was Bobby Karen. He Stone Tech rep for many years. He taught me something. I didn't, all I knew was just to look for it, and solvent smelled bad. But yeah, that's kind of the first thing and if you don't know, you don't know. Right. And that's probably not a question you ask. The question that the average homeowner or do-it-yourself person wants to know is, do I want my stone to look like it does out of the box, or do I want to enhance it in some way?
All right.
And wait those are questions that we got to answer pretty quick.
Yeah, but you're going to another realm now. So water-based and solvent-based is decision number one. If you're a sealer manufacturer, what are we making today? Solvent-based or water-based? So
they're making both today.
So right, but then there's the second question is, do we want that sealer to be enhancing or non-enhancing? Mm-hmm. And is enhancing or non-enhancing strictly limited to a solvent or water-based, or they both options both delivery systems have that option?
I believe both delivery systems have that option.
That's my understanding. So just to explain to people out there, so once you decide which sealer to use, if it's a solvent base or a water base, then you have to decide, okay, what are you looking to accomplish with the sealer? Number one, the main reason for the sealer is to protect the stone from the staining, et cetera. But there happens to be it's not new, but an additional potential feature. Right. The potential additional feature is, do you want that sealer to then mechanically, if that's the right word, change the appearance of the stone a little? And so have you ever been to a beach, Craig?
What's a beach? No. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So, right. You pick up a rock on
going
the beach
Friday.
You're going Friday. What beach?
Ocean Isle Beach. That's our home away from home.
All right, cool. So you go to Ocean Isle, you look down, you see a rock on the ground. It's kind of gray maybe, and it's smooth because it's been weathered by the rain and the sand and the water, and it looks dry and it looks kind of gray. if you take water and you touch it with water, it brings the color out, and it makes it deeper gray, maybe even black. Or if it was a red stone, make it more
Keep
red.
talking.
Yeah. And so what happens is enhancing sealers will not only protect the stone, but it could also make it look wet and stay wet looking. And what I mean wet looking, I don't mean shiny. I mean like how a stone looks when you wet it and it gets deeper. Right, Craig? Isn't that a misnomer? Some people, yeah. So what is that? A piece of limestone?
Basalt.
Basalt is very soft, right?
Very soft, very porous. That's the front. And I always tell clients, if you want to know what an enhancing sealer will do to your stone, just like you were saying, get some water. So what I just did is I had this on my work table, as I said before, and I've got water here. And that's just a little bit of water on that basalt sample, which will show you. Now, it's going to dry pretty quick because, like you said, it's very porous, and air is getting in there, and it's drying out pretty quick. You can see it changing in front of you. But when you have the sealer on it, it stays that wet color.
Well, interesting is that I'm noticing that it's taking a while for that to fade out, and I'm going to attribute that to the fact that stone is really so porous that it's soaked in a lot of water. Yeah.
I mean, there's hardly any water left on my fingers because it's like a sponge. It's like a sponge. And what happens when you have a sponge, you put it in water, it absorbs the water and moves it even up through the molecules. Same thing happens here with this stone. And when you're sealing it, so John, what do you think? Do you think a tile like this would take a lot of sealer or won't take a lot?
That would take a lot of sealer. So is that still water that you put on there?
Yeah, that's still water that I put on there.
All right. So we're going to hold that up a little later maybe, but that's going to dry. Like the water's going to evaporate. And if that happened to be a sealer, a water-based sealer, it would also evaporate, but it would leave the sealer portion behind.
It would leave the polymers behind.
But the finish would not look dark. It would go back to looking at that light gray.
We'll keep it right there. You can see it in the back corner there.
All right, cool.
I love having show and tell. That's good.
Right. So
now you've decided, hey, I want my stone to look normal, or not normal, but let's just call it natural, or I want to bring out the natural, some of the stuff that's interior and give it that wet look. You also can change the sheen. They make some sealers that will give it a glossy sheen or a matte sheen or a high gloss. And those are just kind of things that will sit on top of the tile. It's still that polymer, still has a delivery system. But those sheens and the gloss and the finish changing, most of those are considered topical sealers. And topical sealers are fine. We don't use them as much in the tile industry because normally tile is for high traffic areas, and topical sealers, well, just like anything else, just like your hardwood floors, you can see wear patterns in them after a while.
Yeah, I rarely recommend a topical sealer. I mean, back years ago, that was all sealers were. Silicone sealers were the original types of sealers. So you would buy a sealer, it would be topical, and it would protect the stone to some degree, but there were major downsides. If it's on the floor, it could show wear patterns.
Mm-hmm.
If it's on the wall or floor, it could also actually yellow with some sun, perhaps, right? And then it could also
most of them weren't UV stable. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and then it could also flake off, like when you get a suntan, and then later it like flakes off, right?
Yeah, so delaminates, absolutely.
Yeah, so topical sealers are really old school. I really don't recommend people to use those at all, and you certainly don't want to apply a sealer to a non-porous product. Did you ever get that question, Craig? I have a porcelain, I want to make it shiny.
Yeah, I will get that question a lot. Like I got a matte porcelain tile. If I add this gloss sealer to it, can I make it shiny? And the answer is no. It won't. there are different treatments you can do, but they're all topical, and it's similar to like waxing a vinyl floor. It's going to show wear patterns. It's going to not something we recommend. Pick the finish you want when you pick your tile.
Right. Yeah. There's no way you could. Not only can you change your finish. I mean, that's a common question, right? People have a matte porcelain. They say, "Hey, when I mop my floor with water, it looks nice and shiny, and I like that look. Can we keep that look?" You cannot keep that look. And do not listen to any commercials like on TV. We have Mop and Glow, and they're saying use this on porcelain and that's a horrible. I don't know how they get away with that. I've seen those commercials.
I mean, you'd have to do it every day to keep it. I don't see that's a sustainable thing. And I was a contractor for years, and doing a porcelain tile project, you don't necessarily need a sealer, but over the years, I've often found that if you do apply a sealer to a porcelain system, it can bond to the surface, and it can help in some cleanability. Now, porcelain, as we all know, if you're watching this show, you probably know that porcelain is considered impervious and nothing can really penetrate it, so nothing can stain it. But when you have a barrier on top of it, and even a penetrating sealer can get into the pores, the topical pores a little bit, it helps with some cleanability. Is it necessary? No. Is it cheap insurance? Yeah, sure. I mean, if you got a little bit extra money and don't want to mop as often or want to have an easier time at it, it can help.
See, you know what my problem with that possibility is that since not much of the sealer can go into the tile, it's not going to go into the tile at all, maybe in a microscopic pores on the surface. You have to really apply it right. And so now you're really risking not cleaning it up properly and then leaving a haze on that on that porcelain. So I'm not a fan at all of ever putting a sealer on a porcelain tile. There's an argument for polished porcelain because it's so weird that you would think polished porcelain is sometimes, it's the pores of a porcelain are like this, right? And my understanding is that if you polish it by grinding it, sometimes it can open the pore up a little by grinding down.
It does.
And there are some factories that say you should seal a polished porcelain. Most of them now say you shouldn't, because I guess they figured out a way of polishing it differently. But that is possibility. The pores are closed, and when you grind it, because you're polishing a porcelain in a mechanical way to make a mat into porcelain, it opens up. That's the only time I would consider it feasible to use a non-enhancing sealer on a porcelain tile. Other than that, I am not a fan. I think it's too risky, really.
You do have to install it correctly. It's one of the biggest fails that people do with sealer is trying to do it all in one coat. And sealers, in my experience, perform better when you do thin coats. It's like painting anything. You do a thin layer, you let it dry, you do another thin layer and let it dry. I've gotten the best results out of doing it that way.
Could we change the vernacular a little? I'd like, instead of saying coats, can we say applications?
Sure.
Because coats infers it's sitting on top. And the proper way to put a sealer on, you're wiping it on and you're wiping any residue off the surface. So I know what you're talking about, I think, but some people may think of coats as a layer. It's really just doing the process 2 times or 3 times or 3 applications. So I'm more comfortable.
You like application better.
I like application for that reason,
I can maybe vote for that.
All right. So make a note of that, Craig.
Okay, got it. Noted. But sealers are I tell you, the combination I like the best and is our bulletproof sealer, which is Stone Tech from Laticrete, and they have a cleaner that is combined with it. And the reason I like the two together is the cleaner has a little bit of sealer in it. So every time you clean your tile or your system, you're kind of rejuvenating that sealer on there, which helps with the longevity and the maintenance.
Yeah, and the history, the history of the Stone Tech is interesting because Stone Tech used to be a standalone company, right? Stone Tech, is that what it's called? Yeah, Stone Tech.
Stone Tech. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there used to be a sealer company, and just like many other industries, like if you're in the beverage business and you start making Snapple iced tea like on the side and start selling it and you start making traction, the next thing you know, Coca-Cola is knocking on your door saying, hey, we want to buy your brand. And so that's, I think, in a very loose way, what transpired with Stone Tech. They were so successful. Their sealers, their products are really top notch. Matter of fact, I think the Bulletproof is a gold standard in a sealer.
Yeah, Bulletproof is it's pretty technically advanced, and Stone Tech was developed by DuPont. It was a DuPont company, and
actually, was it called DuPont Bulletproof?
It originally was when it was first done. I mean, they had the DuPont logo on it when I was first starting out. And I know DuPont went through a lot of changes over the last 30 years, and so
DuPont used to have a program that was. I know it's the same product, but they had it where you buy it, and you had the specific guarantee, and you'd have to get it registered, and you would register your Bulletproof project.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the product is. It was more of a marketing thing, because there was paperwork involved and all that stuff. But yeah, they had like a specific guarantee, and you get it in writing, and so I'm sure the product's still the same. It's just as good. It's just they don't feel the need to sell it in that way anymore. Now that it went from Stone Tech, and now Stone Tech is owned by now it's Ladder Creek product, right? Just with the Stone Tech name.
Correct.
Now, what about coverage? Does a sealer that's water based
coverage is going to be about the same, depending on the water-based, solvent-based will be about the same. The big difference in coverage is what are you putting it on? Like that basalt that is very porous, or a piece of granite.
Right.
You're going to get probably 5 times the coverage on a piece of granite as you will that basalt, just because of how porous it is, and it's really the density of the material.
Well, granite is so dense, right? And people use it on kitchen countertops, not as much. That used to be the gold standard for countertops.
That was
granite. And it's interesting. I always recommend people to seal the granite with a non-enhancing sealer, like a Bulletproof, 100%. But granite happened to be so dense that you could often get away without, sealing it at all. And so you could put like an inferior sealer and never have a problem and say, oh my God, that sealer was incredible. But it actually wasn't necessarily the seal. It was just the granite.
That's right.
But the thing is this, you can't ask for a more demanding environment though. You have a countertop.
Oh yeah.
Where you have heat and you have oil and you have cranberry juice and knives and everything. So it's really a demanding scenario. So you're really putting it to the test, right? Mustard and tea.
Yeah, I beat the crap out of our granite countertops. I'll cut vegetables directly on it. It's chemicals. It doesn't matter. We'll clean it with anything.
Right. So if granite was in an application other than a countertop, I would say I wouldn't even bother sealing it, but countertop, you have food, you have introducing all these different things, right? What do you think one of the most porous, somewhat common food item is? Not porous. What's the most dangerous thing to use on something that's, mustard or coffee or cranberry juice?
Anything acidic if you're going on top of polished stone. So
right, but that speaks to etching more than staining, right?
Correct. Yeah. But it's still, a novice would call that a stain. But as far as staining, I don't know.
Well, if you were to take a piece of limestone and test it, and you had to pick like 5 different things to put on top to see if it's stained, like what would you pick out of your refrigerator?
Well, I've actually, I got a video on this on my YouTube channel. I picked, as my control sample, I picked water, which water stains even though it evaporates completely and it's clean. But Coca-Cola, vinegar, wine, and oil.
And oil, okay.
And oil. And out of those, the one that migrated the fastest and stained the worst was balsamic vinegar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So balsamic vinegar is great product, right? It's like a wine, but it's been aged to the point where
it's very thin.
It used to be a lot of volume, and it evaporates and gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it keeps evaporating, so it leaves the compounds last. So, right, the expensive balsamic is 20, 30 years old. It could be, a lot of money for a little jar.
From Walmart, it's probably not that old.
If you get in a $5.99 bottle of balsamic, it's a day old, right?
I use so much balsamic I can't afford 30-year-old balsamic.
Nah,
but between that and oil is the bad thing about oil. Sometimes you don't see it. You set down a plate and it's soaked through, and we use paper plates down here. Sometimes it soaks through the paper plate and it'll stain. And getting oil out, removing any sort of stain from a stone is Russian roulette, and odds are you're going to lose. It can be done. Professionals can do it. The odds of it ever looking 100% like it did are pretty slim.
All right. So I want to hear Craig Cahoon's homemade recipe for poultice, and tell people what that is.
Oh, I don't have a homemade recipe. I go to Home Depot and buy it. Home Depot buys it. But poultice, even with poultice, and I've used commercial grade poultice that we used to stock in buckets, and I've used the stuff from Home Depot. It does work. It does make stains go away, and all it's doing, and I don't remember what it is. I think
it's a baking soda component.
It's like that. You make it almost like a dough or a paste, and then you tape it off and make sure there's no air escaping from it, and it will draw, and that's DRAW, draw the stain out of the stone. Depending on how bad the stain is, you may have to do it multiple times. It'll soak it up, and then you remove it, and then you soak it up again. But most of the time, if you know where the stain was, you can still say, oh, there was a stain there. Now, somebody walking in for the first time may never see it, but if you know it was there, then you know it was there.
Yeah. Well, my understanding with a poultice is that it sends wetting agents into the stone, right? So you're making this paste, and I think you could do a homemade version. I think it's baking soda and something else. It's definitely something else.
I've seen people do it from the grocery store.
But you put this paste on a stain, and like you said, you put saran wrap over it, tape it up. So I think what that does is the moisture is not being evaporated. The moisture is not leaving into the air. It's going into the stone. And then I visualize it evaporating out of the stone and maybe bringing in some of the oil with it.
Right.
And depositing it on the surface.
I actually shared a diagram today. I don't know if you read that email that shows how stains migrate through stones and grout, and it came from an article that I'll just be frank, I had not heard of this until a couple of years ago when somebody in the showroom mentioned, do you agree with 6-side stone sealing? Have you heard?
I've never heard of that term.
You've never heard of that term?
No,
I hadn't either, but the term, what it means is you're sealing the top of the tile and the 4 edges
and the bottom,
because some of the leaching has gotten so bad, and some of the higher end grouts, the pigments are smaller, everything's smaller, and there's stuff migrating into the edges of the tile, causing picture frame effects. And actually, it was one of our showroom reps that kind of gave me that. I'd heard it being done, but I didn't know there was a name for it.
I think that's a very rare and specific situation. Can you imagine you showing up to a job, Craig, and customer's like, "Oh, you're gonna seal all 6 edges of the stone, right?" You're like,
Yeah.
"No,
Yeah.
You're lucky I'm doing one." And
That's right.
and
That's
the
right.
time and the
I'm like, man,
cost
there's a upcharge for this, I think.
at that point, you're just dipping it in a bucket of sealer and pulling it out. And
Well,
wiping
you
it off.
can't seal the back of it, or then your mortar won't bond to it.
Well, that was my next question, but then it's only 5 sides you're sealing.
Okay, well then maybe it is 5. I
No,
know.
but-
I swear that article said 6 sides.
Well, I mean,
Anyway,
it's not impossible for a setting material to stick to a sealed stone. You just got to be.
no,
really-
it's not impossible, but I would worry about that. I
would. Now here you're trying to protect the rare possibility that something's going to come through the back. You're gonna advance your odds there, but you're gonna decrease your odds of it sticking properly.
of a bonding.
I'm
You definitely. I would choose bonding over. Stain. But it was. I said all that to say that it was an interesting article about how moisture moves through a system, and it was talking about how it's like high pressure, low pressure system, and a nozzle. The nozzle end is the grout joint, which causes the moisture to kind of funnel up through the grout joint, and which therefore causes the picture frame effect, because when water migrates, it moves, it carries something with it, just like we talked about the sealer. It's carrying contaminants with it, and the most prominent contaminant is from concrete.
Lime.
Trivia question for you.
Is it not lime?
Efflorescence, yeah. I mean,
oh, okay. The lime is calling the is causing efflorescence. Yeah.
Well, yes, yeah. The lime, a lot of times causes that efflorescence. But I thought that was pretty neat how it showed that moisture highway, that mitigation of the moisture or migration of the moisture, and it's carrying those salts, and it's using that grout joint as the on ramp to getting it, and then it goes into the porcelain, or not the porcelain, but the stone, and it picture frames the stone. I thought that was a great
that was a good
illustration.
That was a good graphic. And just to explain it a little more, so it showed the cross section of a tile, and it showed the substrate, and it showed arrows pointing up, and moisture could go in the middle of the tile to the top of the tile, but the path of least resistance is through the grout joint, so more of it's going to come together at the grout joint. So that's why it kind of presents itself as a frame around a stone, as opposed to being like evenly dispersed. And I see Craig's frantically trying to find it on his computer there. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So, well,
I was trying to find it, but my I am working the computer too hard. It was.
Yeah, you got a lot of things happening there.
It was creating some lag.
So well, that's a good technical thing. Efflorescence, right? People drive past a building it could even be brick, right? And people see like white haze, and that's really, if you're an architect or a designer, you're designing a building exterior, especially with a dark material, you really need to mitigate that somehow.
I will say that concretes and mixtures have gotten better, so the efflorescence issue, especially in the tile industry, has gone down significantly. Most, we used to have big problems with it in the cement for mud beds, and even some of your lower end thin sets would create efflorescence. Now that's pretty much gone away. But you still can get it if you have an exterior application on a concrete wall. It can happen, but it's gotten there. There are ways to mitigate it, and one of the keys is keeping moisture out of your concrete systems.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming also some of the ingredients in there are no longer, there are some sort of chemical or plastic or polymer. There are things in the cementitious mix that isn't as cementitious. Does that make sense?
Right. There's some fillers in there that don't have that salt content in there. That's what causes the majority of it.
So is that a derivative of salt, or salt that's actually?
It is. It's what salt travels through, and it liquefies. But once the moisture gets to the face of the brick or the wall or whatever, the water evaporates out of it and it leaves the salt behind. So efflorescence on the side of a building is a salt. You could go farm it and sell it.
Yeah, right. Is it power washable? Like, is that comes off with power wash?
Yeah, most of the time it can come off. Depending on how porous it's deposited on.
Right.
Like if it's deposited on a brick, it can be pretty tricky, but for the most part, it should come right off. But once again, if you've got a constant water supply, you've got a constant efflorescence issue.
Right. You have a river of sediment.
Exactly.
Coming. You know what? I saw a product today on Tile Bar's website. It's actually a little off topic here, but did you see? It's called Curve, I think it's called.
You mentioned that to me, so let's see here if we can find it. And I think this is slowing down my computer.
Yeah, this is cool.
All these fancy videos we like to put on our websites.
Those videos, those are real gems. Look at that. That's amazing. So this is
hold on. Let me check something out real quick.
Yeah.
Look at that video.
Can you play that?
Who's that guy?
Can you play that? Looks like Devo.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see. We won't play it all, but.
How long is it? Oh, the video, the audio, I don't think carries.
It's 3 minutes. Okay. Yeah, audio doesn't carry through.
Yeah.
But if you want to see that video, just check out my YouTube page, which hit 250,000 views today.
I'm not hearing you correctly. Say it again.
I said my YouTube page hit 250,000 views today, which I know that there's some content creators out there that do that in one video, but I'm just happy after 2.5 or 3 years, I hit 250,000. That's a quarter of a million.
That's congratulations.
If I got $1 for each view, I could almost afford to hire you for a month.
I'm more scared for now knowing how many people have been influenced by your wisdom. It's a little worrisome.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll go back to the curve. Why is it called curve?
Well, because the tile has like a kind of a curve on the surface, and it creates like these beads. So it may be hard to see there, but it's kind of 3-dimensional. There you go. And it's a ceramic tile made in Spain. You could tell by the red clay. That's a dead giveaway that it's ceramic. The body of the tile. And does that?
I was going to say that normally is a giveaway, but I've seen some porcelains that have red. They're not. You don't see them that often.
I've seen porcelains that are red, but they're on the low end of the quality scale. It's
okay. That was a very diplomatic way to say that.
Yeah, it's crap. So anyway, Tile Bar doesn't carry a red body porcelain floor tile. I could see potentially a wall tile that's it's really like a porcelain. The clay may be redder, but that doesn't make a difference. But on the floors, it does. So this is beautiful, and this is a 6x12 wall tile only. Beautiful glaze, really nice Spanish factory.
Yeah, it looks cool. Good colors too. They're I would say unique colors. It's not like your everyday.
Oh yeah, look at that! Bring out that red.
It's not like your everyday wall tile.
That is nice. That is really nice. That's a good price too. $10 a square foot for something that's smart looking. I like that. Look, click on the load more images on that little lower on the screen. I want to see what we got going on there. See a picture of Craig again.
Mink grout is the grout color suggested.
I never even heard of that.
All right. Is it loading more? mink. I think it's one of the new colors. Latacrete just updated their color list and brought in some. Let me just say that their colors were a little bit out of date, so I think they brought in some color.
You're updated
to get it up to.
That's hot.
Updated.
Now notice you could put
updated colors.
You could put the line, the bars of those ribbons going vertically. You can also go horizontal. I think the top left is horizontal. The kitchen sink there, the backsplash.
Yeah, that one, that backsplash there.
Yeah, so look how different that looks just on changing the orientation of it. Now, what's the hottest thing about
now? See, what I would suggest, and I'm guessing that the mink grout probably matches this faux grout line in the middle because there's no grout. Grout's not meant to stick in this one.
Right. It's funny you said that because
we
talked about other tiles like the Vision, right? That it has a score in the tile. Yeah. That the tile is like a bigger tile and it's scored and it's like an unfinished product that needs to be grouted. This is like that's a good way of.
This one is glazed all the way. So. Yeah. But what I love, and I'm just going to brag on us for a little bit because it's you and I talking, and nobody else is asking any questions, you bunch of losers. I love that we've taken some of the guesswork out of what you need to go with it. You know, you got the complete the look. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology, but we give you a designer picked grout color, a compatible to your system. Look at this. We're just talking about this. The Revitalizer cleaner and heavy duty grout sealer, which I would actually swap that out for the bulletproof sealer. Even though this is a glazed tile,
is it crackled at all?
I don't know if it is or not, but so those are some default things that Tile Bar wants to do to try to help you. If you maybe you don't have a designer, or maybe you're working through this on your own, and we try to answer those questions for you, help you out.
Yeah, what'd you think of that line?
I love that. I saw that. Seems like I saw that when we were just bringing it on, or something like that, but I think it's cool. I love the colors.
The colors are it. Now, being that it's on a red body Bicator or twice fired ceramic tile, someone may say, well, why don't you just make it porcelain? Because porcelains are good, even though it couldn't be used for the floor because of the 3-dimensional part of it. But the reason they use a red body ceramic tile is because you can create the nicest type of glazes on that type of body of tile. You can't, to my knowledge, make a red like that with that kind of texture and the sheen and all that on a porcelain body. It kind of limits what you can do. So
I wonder if that has anything to do with the bondability of the pigments and stuff. Maybe they can't get that because of the impervious nature of porcelain.
I think
I don't know the answer to that, but
I think that's it, because the main difference between, or the defining line between ceramic and porcelain is porosity, how porous it is.
Right.
So if you cannot create a beautiful red glaze with that undulation and patina on a porcelain, it's probably because it's more porous, and maybe the ingredients of that glaze formulation need some porosity to kind of interact properly and fire properly. And I'd like to get more technical with some factories coming up. Ask them about.
I would too. Yeah, I'd like to have some. I'm not laughing at you, but you brought up something that, we don't sell tile worldwide, but I consider us a worldwide company just because of the relationships we have overseas and import. And sometimes things are lost in translation. Well, as we've talked about before, we try to get documents in that will give us the data for these materials. And sometimes there's things that are lost in translation. And when you were talking about water absorption, I saw one of our factory data sheets that I don't know if they generated it in AI or the translator broke, but they had a category for dynamic coefficient of water absorption. And so the question got to me and said, what is this?
This is a
Luckily,
new test.
My response was short. I said typo.
Right. There you go.
But that you were talking about water absorption. I was like, the dynamic coefficient of water absorption.
Yeah, that's definitely
unless that's a new thing and I don't know about it. And you let me know.
Yeah, it really it is interesting. Well, actually, I'm going to correct you. I'm working on a cruise ship now in Spain, so we do sell tile.
Okay, well, good. Hey, I knew it wouldn't be long.
Yeah. So
we're running out of time. I got one question to ask you before I go. We normally we I don't have the graphic or the email, but it's in my head. It was a question that came across my desk actually today. And it was a client that has the tile, and I'll pull it up here in a second. And we're asking if we're sure that it's okay for a floor. So you tell me what you think.
No.
All right. What is your reason for saying no?
All right. 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons, actually.
Okay.
So the white part of that material is a natural stone. So yes, that's fine.
Okay.
It's the little decorative part that is beautiful, gorgeous. And the reason it's $40, which is actually pretty cheap for that. But there's 2 reasons why that's not good for a floor. One is that's mother of pearl. So if you look at that that surface, that kind of pearlized off-white look, that is super thin and super delicate surface. Number 1. Number 2, it's then laminated on top of something else, usually probably a stone or a ceramic of some sort there. So those are the 2 reasons. The main reason is mother of pearl is just fragile. You can't step on it, in my opinion. What do you think?
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks like it's laminated to a piece of limestone, maybe.
You know what?
At first, I thought it was.
That could be man-made. It almost looks like it could be.
At first, I thought it was MDF. I was like, "This is the problem. Where did we get this from?"
Yeah.
But you're right. It could be a resin, a pressed resin, stone resin system. I don't know.
Is there a picture do the picture of bottom right hand corner? It shows it curled up, the sheet.
Yeah, doesn't it look like MDF or what you would think of?
It looks like the inside of a Reese's peanut butter cup. I don't know what that is.
I was thinking Rice Krispie treat or Twix bar.
Well, we're on the same page. Yeah. Well, folks, we're gonna end on a low note here. We're talking about
candy,
and,
but I don't know. I thought it was a great question.
But the answer
mother of pearl
no.
is unique, and I guess it's closely related. Would you call it second cousins to a marble, even though it's different? But
not geologically, but in maybe performance, perhaps.
Performance wise,
yeah, maybe,
because geologically it's a shell based, isn't
it? Yeah.
I forget what you call it, a crustacean.
Yeah. All right.
Is that right?
I don't know.
No, crustacean would be a
crustacean. I don't think so.
It's like a crab.
Yeah, right? Now we're going downhill fast.
Yeah, we're going downhill fast. So we'll say good night.
Yeah, well, hey, this has been cool. I love talking tech with you. Whoever's interested in tech, glad you stayed on for the conversation.
Yeah.
And we do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. This is the happy hour, the tile happy hour with John Tedisco and Craig Cahoon. Talk about tile, grout, sealers, Twix bars, and also Rice Krispies and peanut butter cups. So this is John Tedisco. I'd like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
Well, hey, John, at the very end of I'm Not Blue Boy Gaming, thanks for tuning in. You're the only one that commented tonight. I appreciate it. I know we had some people out there. I saw the numbers on several different places.
I was getting messages on my phone, but it was hard to me to do two things at once. I didn't.
Raquel, love it. Thanks, Raquel, for tuning in. We appreciate everybody, and I love talking technical stuff. I'm not a designer, but I can fake it with the best of them. And so for those of you that did tune in, remember, we want to talk about things that you want to talk about. So send us an email, send us a comment. We want to discuss the things that maybe you have questions on, or you think the average public would like to know, because people are watching and people are kind of taking notes of what's going on in the tile stone industry. And we don't know everything, but we are a catalyst for conversation, if nothing else. And we love it. We look forward to seeing your comments, seeing you next time. Tune in next Tuesday. I think, John, we're going to have to talk about next Tuesday. I forgot to mention this to you. I may be going to Surfaces.
Cool. Yeah, we do.
I've never been before, and I think that's next week.
Is that in Vegas?
Yeah, or is it the week after next?
Yeah, well, we do have a few episodes where we're going to be broadcasting some special encore presentations. Yeah. And so just pay attention, check it out. And
follow us on all of our social media stuff. Here, I'll throw that up there real quickly. That's us. I'm Tile the World at several different places. And we're always posting stuff. We love hearing from you, and we love interacting with you. And we appreciate it. And I hope you have a great evening. Stay safe. If you're in the eastern part of the United States, we got a storm coming through, and let's keep always learning together, and let's tile the world.